My name is Emily Carter, and if you asked me just a year ago, I would have told you my life was as close to perfect as it could get. I had a husband who loved me, a cozy little home in the suburbs of Dallas, and a circle of friends who always made me laugh. But the truth is, sometimes the smallest things, what we think of as harmless jokes, can spiral into something so big it changes everything forever. And that's what happened to me. When I met Ryan Carter, he was the kind of man every woman seemed to notice. Tall, athletic, with that easy Texas charm that made people feel comfortable instantly. He wasn't just handsome, he was kind, reliable, and steady. After dating for 2 years, we got married in a small ceremony in Austin, surrounded by family and friends. For the next 6 years, we built a life together, careers, friends, trips, laughter, and a marriage that, while not perfect, felt solid. Or at least I thought it did. Ryan and I had a tradition of Friday night dinners with our closest friends, Mark and Sarah, who had been married longer than us, and Jenna, my best friend since college. These dinners were full of inside jokes, teasing, and playful banter. Ryan loved to make people laugh, and he had this way of turning anything into a funny story. I always admired that about him. But it was during one of those dinners that everything began to unravel. It started out so small, so harmless. We were all sitting around the table, a bottle of wine open, the smell of barbecue filling the room, when Mark cracked a joke about how men never listen to their wives. Everyone laughed, and then Sarah playfully added, "Well, at least Ryan listens to Emily. You're one of the good ones." I should have just smiled and moved on. But I didn't. I rolled my eyes dramatically and said, "Oh, please. If you knew how many times I have to repeat myself to him, you'd take that back." Honestly, Ryan's about as attentive as a teenager with headphones in. The table burst into laughter. Ryan gave a small chuckle, but I saw something flash in his eyes. I thought it was just embarrassment, maybe even mock annoyance. I leaned over and patted his arm, saying, "I'm kidding, honey. You know I love you." And that was that. Or so I thought. The next morning, Ryan was quiet. He made coffee, kissed my cheek, but there was a heaviness about him. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah, just tired." I let it go. Everyone gets in a mood sometimes. But then the jokes became a pattern. At another dinner, when Jenna teased me about being picky with food, I shot back with, "Well, at least I'm not the one who forgets our anniversary dinner reservation. Right, Ryan?" Everyone laughed again. It was meant as a silly jab, but I saw Ryan's jaw tighten. He laughed too, but it was forced. Over the next few weeks, I noticed Ryan retreating. He stayed later at work, spent more time in the garage, and when we were together, he was quieter. I thought maybe it was stress. One night I asked him, "Is something wrong?" He hesitated, then said, "You've been making me the punchline a lot lately." I froze. "What?" "No, I was just joking. You know me. I never mean anything by it." "I know," he said softly, "but it doesn't feel that way anymore. It feels like you'd rather laugh at me than with me." I brushed it off at the time, hugged him, told him he was overthinking it. But deep down, a part of me wondered if he was right. Because the truth was, sometimes those jokes came from frustration, small annoyances that I didn't talk about seriously. Instead of saying, "It hurt when you forgot our plans," I'd mask it with sarcasm and laughter. Still, I thought it was fine. I thought he understood. Until the night it all came crashing down. It was another Friday dinner, this time at our place. The wine was flowing, the music was on, and the conversation turned to marriage quirks. Mark bragged about how Sarah never snores. Jenna rolled her eyes about her boyfriend's obsession with video games. And then Sarah looked at me and said, "Emily, what's Ryan's worst habit?" Without thinking, without pausing, I blurted out, "Oh, that's easy. He's terrible at romance. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm living with a roommate, not a husband." The room erupted in laughter. Everyone thought it was hilarious. Everyone but Ryan. He gave a tight smile, excused himself, and went upstairs. I felt a sting of guilt, but I told myself he's just sensitive. He'll get over it. I finished laughing with our friends, cleaned up after they left, and went to find him. But when I opened our bedroom door, he was packing a bag. My heart dropped. "Ryan, what are you doing?" He didn't look at me. "I can't do this anymore." I rushed over, panic flooding me. "Do what?" "Ryan, it was just a joke." "I didn't mean it." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were full of hurt. "That's the problem, Emily. It's never just a joke. Do you know what it feels like to be made fun of by the one person who's supposed to have your back? To feel small in front of your friends, over and over again? You laugh, they laugh, and I'm left feeling like less than a man." like less than your partner. Tears welled in my eyes. Ryan, I love you. You know that. I don't feel it anymore, he whispered. I feel like you stopped respecting me a long time ago. I grabbed his arm, begging him to stay, promising I'd change, but he shook his head. It's too late. I warned you. I told you how it made me feel. And you kept doing it. That night, Ryan walked out of our home with a single suitcase, and he never came back. The weeks that followed were a blur of denial, anger, and heartbreak. I kept telling myself he'd cool off, that he'd realize he was overreacting. But the days turned into weeks and then months. Papers came. Divorce papers. And that's when it hit me. It was over. I replayed everything in my head. Every laugh, every sarcastic remark, every time I thought I was being witty when really I was cutting into the heart of the man I loved. I told myself it was just humor, that he was strong enough not to take it personally. But words matter. Words cut deeper than we realize. My friends tried to comfort me. He'll come back, Jenna said at first. He just needs time. But as the months passed, even she stopped saying that. Instead, she told me gently, Emily, you have to learn from this. You can't keep joking away the things that bother you. You have to talk about them, or they'll eat away at everything. And she was right. Looking back now, I realize my silly jokes weren't really silly at all. They were unspoken grievances, resentments I never dealt with, frustrations I never admitted. Instead of communicating with love and honesty, I wrapped them in humor and tossed them at the man who trusted me most. And eventually it broke him. It broke us. It's been a year since Ryan left. He's moved on. I heard he's dating someone new. Someone who, I hope, never makes him feel the way I did. As for me, I'm still learning. Learning how to respect people with my words, how to express my feelings honestly without hiding behind sarcasm. Sometimes I sit alone in our old backyard, remembering the sound of his laugh, the warmth of his hand in mine. And I think about how fragile love really is. It doesn't usually shatter from the big things. It crumbles from the small, repeated cracks. From the things we brush off as harmless until they're not. So if you're listening to my story, I want you to hear this. Never underestimate the power of your words. What feels like a silly joke to you might feel like a knife to someone else.